My name's John Fletcher, and I'm a lowly developer at Codecentric AG, which is a German software consultant. Or maybe I'm the lowly developer there because no one else really wanted that title. And today I'm going to talk to you about effectiveness through inclusion in mixed remote teams. What do I mean by a mixed remote team? Well, is a mixed team of remotes? No, I mean, when you've got a bunch of people on site at a certain location, for example, the lead developer conference is based in London and San Francisco, and they're places where you've often got a lot of work, a lot of tech things going on, and then we need a bit of support from other places because there's just not enough people there. And often sometimes they're in other countries, far away in some place. You've got your remote developers. So I'm talking about that kind of mixed team there. And you know the story. You've been in this typical scenario where you've got a meeting, somebody books a room and puts a speaker phone in the middle and opens a WebEx conference or something. And everybody's talking, and depending on how far away they are from this speaker, once they're more than a meter or two away, people on the phone can't actually hear what they're saying anyway. And if there's in the standard case with no video, then the remote developers can't actually see who's talking. And at some point, they just basically drop out a bit from what's being said. They don't really get it all, but that's okay because someone will just explain it to them later, And what you end up with is a kind of a two-class society. You've got the first-class citizens, they're on site, they're with the client there, they're getting everything, understanding everything. And then you've got the sort of second-class society or second class of citizens. That's the sort of the remote developers. And, someone will just tell them what to do and they can just develop it. But it's okay because we're agile. We're doing remote Scrum. So that's fine. Except that this kind of two-class society is actually the exact opposite of the spirit of the Agile Manifesto, of Agile work. In Agile, we're saying, hey, we want to work together as a team. And I like the way that Atlassian summed this up in an ad they made, which ran in the New York Times once. That's it. And it's true, isn't it? Because today, what we create is not measured by, or we're not measured by what I've done. It's what I do actually doesn't bring the business further. It's what my team does. It's the output of the team as a whole, which is what's the business needs, what's bringing the business forward. So we need to focus on what the whole team creates together. And that's why, for me, in a project that I was in last year, I said, hey, there's only going to be first-class citizens in this project. We're not going to have this kind of this silly situation where the people are halfway excluded because they're remote. So I was in a project here in Frankfurt where I live, and the client's in Frankfurt too. Some of the team is here. And then we had a couple of guys who were in Bosnia and Herzegovina. This is Miloš and Dejan. They're from Bosnia. Those are not their official employee photos, by the way. And these guys they're part of the team. So one day we had a particularly long and strenuous meeting. It was a kind of a product review meeting, along with clarifying a lot of questions and talking about things. And at the end of it, we were supposed to do the retrospective. And you know what happens after you've just had epic long meetings and everybody's tired, and then it's time for the retrospective. You know what happens next? Someone says, what about we just skip the retrospective this time? Well, the correct answer to that question is always no. Don't skip the retro. What we did in this case, we didn't run a full retrospective like you maybe normally would. We just had a chat, just talked, hey, why is that so difficult for you? What was problematic about the meeting we just had? And we developed 3 rules for meetings out of that little retro that we did there, just by noting down what they were saying to us. And I want to share those 3 rules with you. Video meeting rules. You don't have to read these little post-it notes because I'm going to explain them, but they're posted on the wall behind my desk where I was working in that team. And enforcement of these rules is everyone's responsibility, all right? So the first rule is the 30-second rule. If someone speaks off camera for more than 30 seconds, we stop everything. We stop the meeting, we readjust the whole setup, and we get everybody on camera. So this was before. Nowadays, you know, everybody's kind of got very accustomed to video conferencing. This is in 2019. We said, hey, we're going to use cameras. We need to see who's speaking. And that was already good. But what would happen is people would come into the room, and then they, you know, like stakeholders for a meeting, and then they wouldn't be on camera. And they would talk, and the remote people don't really know how many people are in the room, who's talking at a certain point in time. And it's very tricky. So we said, right, that's just unfair. That just doesn't make sense. Everybody needs to be on camera when they speak. And what we would do is we would just, we figured out that at a squeeze, this is before Corona, we could get 3 people sort of cuddled together in front of one laptop camera. And the stakeholders, they were totally okay with that. They understood what we were trying to do, and they fitted into our plans, and we set up new laptops or tablets where need be, but we made sure that worked. That's already a massive step forward. But what you often will find is in a lot of places, your internet connection isn't good enough, so that every 20 minutes, or maybe much more often, you'll have a break, and you suddenly will miss a bit of what was just said. And then everyone has to stop, and it has to be repeated, and that's a total pain, and it's a total cost. Don't accept that. Do not accept low quality technical solutions for important stuff like this. So we just said, we'll stuff it. We'll buy an LTE router, an unlimited data SIM card, cost us 80 euros a month or something. And then we had perfect video conference from then on. You might not be able to just plug in new stuff, your machine to some other connection. But the point is, I would tell whoever's responsible for that stuff, I am only going to work with a remote team if you give me the ability to work with them on an eye-to-eye basis, on an equal basis where they can be totally integrated. Otherwise, I'm not going to work with them. Then I want to work with local people. And when you do that, you show the value of those remote colleagues to them. They realize it. They realize, hey, we're important. We're being included here. Another option, which some people do, they say, well, if one person is remote in a meeting, then everybody's remote. So there is no sort of big group, but everybody goes to their own laptop and participates from there. That's possible. It might work in your scenario. I think it has pros and cons, so that's an option you can try as well. So that was our 30-second rule. Then we have the 15-minute rule. If a remote participant doesn't say anything for 15 minutes, what does that mean if someone doesn't say anything in the meeting for 15 minutes? Well, I can tell you what it means in my experience. It means that they've switched off. They kind of lost track of what was being talked about, and they kind of just gave up and said, oh, well, it doesn't matter. Someone will explain it to me later. Well, that's not something that we want to happen, is it? So we made a rule that if someone doesn't say something for 15 minutes in our team, then we stop the meeting and that person explains to us what we just talked about for the last 15 minutes. That's a great way to encourage participation, isn't it? In reality, we applied that rule maybe a couple of times and with good humor, But just the existence of it, just the concept that we had that idea there, totally changed the participation in the meeting and kept people on their toes a little bit. But I favor other less maybe scary ways of involving people. And involving people in meetings is super important, not just for remote meetings, like we're talking about here, but any kind of a meeting. It's really important. Even when you're down at the pub, it's an interesting question. How much are different people involved in the conversation? See, you might be familiar with with Google's study, Aristotle project, they called it, which is the project where they worked out that emotional safety is really important to team performance. And in that same study, they had their scientists watching meetings and counting how many times everybody talked. And they derived a statistic which they called the equivalence of conversational turn-taking, which is a kind of complicated sounding way of saying, does everyone participate in the meeting and say an equal amount? Or is the conversation dominated by 2 or 3 people? How is it in your meetings? How was it in the last couple of meetings you attended? Since I learned that this equivalence of conversational turn-taking is highly correlated with high-performing teams, I started to really take note of that. And so whenever I'm in a meeting now, I'm sort of in 2 different things at the same time. On the one side, I'm paying attention a bit to what we're supposed to be talking about. And on the other side, I'm trying to make everybody participate equally, or in other words, get the quiet people to say something. So I've got a few tricks for that. I ask them a question. It's a great way to do it. But don't ask them a yes/no question. You know, like, hey, Tanya, do you agree? You know what Tanya's going to say? Yeah. Okay, so ask them an open question. Make them talk a bit. Or another one that I quite like is sometimes people discuss, should we do solution A or solution B? And they're basically the same, you know, and neither one is really better for me than the other. So at that point, I'll say, I agree with Dale. At that point, Dale hasn't actually said anything yet. So everybody gets a shot and looks at Dale. And then Dale can tell us what he thinks. You can develop your own tricks, or your own approaches, but take note of that in the future. And you'll see that in those meetings and in those teams where there's a high equality in participation, that you have much better feeling in your meeting and in your team. Then we've got the 45-minute rule. And the 45-minute rule, very simple, just that we take a break every 45 minutes in our meetings. That might seem quite short, but it's pretty important if you're speaking in a language which is not your native language, which is often the case for remote participants. And, you know, they're listening in and they're trying to pick up what you intuitively pick up when you're on sort of there present on site, then it's nice to have a break from time to time. And as a sideline, it helps us getting too far off track with meetings. So what did all these rules do? What did this approach do of wanting to include these developers, wanting to put them on the same level? Well, I can tell you it made them feel pretty special. It made them feel pretty good. And it made an impressive ambience in the team. We had no turnover in that project, ran for about a year. We had no turnover amongst the developers in the team. No one wanted to leave. And I quite liked what Miller said to me at the end. It was a greenfields project. It was like, choose your own technology, great client. So basically, pretty much a developer dream project. And Miller said at the end, I'm sad that the project is ending, but not because of the project or the technologies or anything, but because of losing the team. And if you can create a team where people say that, then you know you're going to get highly effective performance from them. Thank you very much. That's all.